Alright, this is your creation. My name is Starseed Bey. Today we're going to be talking about some interesting stuff. Just some stuff that's just been on my heart um, that I really just want to kind of express. As all the titles suggest, here, let me push record on my phone real quick. Facebook is down for some weird reason. It won't let me go live, so I don't know what's going on. So let me push record on here. So, but yeah, we're going to be talking about some interesting stuff. Let me go ahead and plug my stuff real quick here and then we'll get started here. So, if you're interested in me at all, I do got a Facebook page. I got two of them. One's a private site and then the other one's a public site. So if you're interested, just type in Starseed Bey and you'll find me on there. And I am also on Facebook. So, oh, excuse me, YouTube. Getting distracted here. I got a lot on my mind. So, also on YouTube as well. So, if you haven't subscribed, definitely subscribe. Like, share, leave comments. Definitely leave comments on what you'd like to see. Areas that maybe I need to improve on. Whatever it may be. You know, I mean, this stuff is made for you guys to make you view life differently. You know, view life in a way, you know, that we weren't taught. You know, that we weren't taught. You know, we were so programmed into this reality. You know, we're born into a world of programs, and it's frustrating. It really is, because so many people focus on beliefs and faiths, and that's kind of the guidelines of everything, and that's really what we'll be discussing today. Is faith and belief, and just trying to find shortcuts. So many people are trying to find shortcuts, and you know, and that's kind of been the trend of what I've been talking about recently. You know, like with witchcraft and magic and all that stuff. You know, I mean, we use magic daily, we use witchcraft daily, right? You know, and when you get to deep meditation and stuff, you know, you come across messengers and guides and all that stuff, and we really have to really distinguish, you know, the information that is being fed to us, and do research upon that. And that reminds me, I was going to look that scripture up, but it's in Revelations, and it's spread throughout the Bible as well. But in Revelations, when I don't remember his name, if it's Paul or Peter, I think it's Paul. Um, and he went to go and bow down to the angel or the messenger, right? Because I mean, in the Hebrew Bible, there's no word angel; it's just messenger. He went to go bow down to the messenger, and the messenger said, "No, don't bow down. Don't bow down to me. I'm just a messenger." You know, if you want to bow down to anybody, you know, it's your creator. You know, it's your creator of everything. You know, that's why we do what we do. You know, I mean, there was a creator that created everything, you know, and just like through these dreams or prophetic dreams, or these feelings or visions that we come across, we really have to dig deeper into this, to dig deeper into what is being shown to us. You know, what are the messengers showing us? You know, what is, you know, the Most High or God showing us? You know, what is Christ showing us? What are the angels showing us? What are these perceived ET beings showing us? You know, what are we being showed, and how can we uh, figure out, you know, what is being showed? You know, people take things so literally. You know, they have visions or prophetic dreams of a meteor hitting the earth, or fire everywhere on the earth and things like that. It's symbolic. I don't know how many countless testimonies and dreams that I have heard from people talking about on how people are being set on fire. People are being set on fire. Now, what is fire? Fire is purification. It is purifying. It is a sense of cleansing, purifying a sense of cleansing. Yeah, it looks bad from a physical standpoint. You see people burning in fire, but it is a cleansing. It is a cleansing. And that brings a good point of uh, of what's talked about in the Bible, right? The word hell isn't in the Bible. The closest thing that you'll come across, is the fire and brimstone, right? The fire and brimstone. Well, you do more research on that. I guess there was a town that actually did that. It was known as a land of fire and brimstone because they would burn and sacrifice people there, and if you didn't obey to them, they'd burn and sacrifice you on the fire and brimstone. I forget where I read that, but it is in the Bible. You have to look it up. That's the closest definition of a real fire and brimstone. Otherwise, any any word that is perceived hell is actually just the underworld. They talk about the underworld constantly in the Bible. The underworld, the underworld. And it's talked about throughout history, of this underworld, that there's beings that live under the earth, right? The hollow earth, under the earth. It's in the Bible all over the place. I was even watching a guy just kind of put all the scriptures together, talking about the underworld, you know. But yeah, as far as fire goes, it's a purification process. It's a spiritual purification process, a cleansing process of the souls, of the energy, of the synergy. Man, you get so deep on just this alone. Um, it's nothing bad. We're taught in churches that we want to avoid the fire. We want to avoid the fire. Why would you want to avoid that's going to purify and cleanse you? That's called fear. That's called fear. And that's called ego. Ego or sin, right? The modern term of sin is ego because we allow the self, the physical self, to control us. We allow this to control us, and we are misled at times, a lot of times, from the heart. There's a difference between the heart space and the ego heart space, and it gets really complex. I mean, it's so hard to it's so hard to really try to distinguish all of this, and try to put it into words, put it all into words. And that's really what this whole thing is about. There's so many things I want to talk about here, but to sum it up is to get a better understanding of self, to get a better understanding of what Christ was talking about, of going within self, And I'll say this over and over again. Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one goes to the Father or the Most High except through me. Through me. It's a parable. It's allowing you to say that yourself. I am. I am. And it gets so misinterpreted. I was watching a video yesterday, and people were commenting saying, uh, of no, we're not becoming gods, or some people were like, yes, we're all mini gods, uh, or we are the Christ, we are the Christ, right? People get so confused, so very confused, and we really have to clarify exactly what Christ was saying in the Bible. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Christ was real or fictional. It doesn't matter. It's the words that were stated in there. It was the life and death of Christ that was stated in there that defines the whole elements of what the Bible was. In the Old Testament and going into the birth of Christ, it was all about worshiping outside self, worshiping gods and idols, listening to all the voices in your head. Uh, man, from sacrificing, blood rituals, all of this stuff, all of this outside stuff, outside source. And then here comes Christ comes along. Christ comes along, restructures the whole thing, and tells people, I listen to the Father inside self. I listen to the Most High. Um, Christ never went to a church or an assembly, right? Christ never went to a public assembly. He taught his disciples to go inside self, Meditation, that's what it was in the Bible, was meditation. In modern times, it turned into praying. But praying and meditation are two key things. They're one and the same, basically, but my definition of it is praying is talking to your Creator or the Most High. Meditation is walking with your Creator or walking with the Most High. The power of the magic eye, the third eye, the magi eye, right? The imagination eye. We're able to visually see or be on a holodeck type structure, of being showed what the messengers are trying to teach you or show you, trying to teach you and show you. And the best way and how I can even explain this is, you have to experience this stuff. My experience is just it's very unique. It's very unique. Now there's other testimonies that I'm sure are very similar. I'm friends with some people that have had some similar experiences, but my experience was back in 2010, and I've talked about this before. 2010 January, poof, my whole life changed. My whole life changed. The messengers came to me. This voice in my head said, it's time to wake up. It's time to start your mission. It's time to start your mission. And I'm like, what? It was just like an alarm clock, just, a timer just went off in my whole being. And I transformed at that moment. And things were never the same. I had to constantly doing tons of research, learning about how the world worked, from a physical standpoint, how the world worked. And then the messengers led me into the deeper meditation techniques, learning what to look for, what not to look for, discerning spirits, which is what I was taught as I was growing up, with all of my shadow being dreams and experiences, was preparing me on how to discern spirits or how to not be manipulated by all the voices. Holy cow! It's crazy. And I've talked about schizophrenia as well, and how some people are so empathic or telepathic. Telepathic's a real thing. Empathic's a real thing. Psychic's real thing. And it's being more and more known, which is why I showed you a couple videos back about how the news is now stating that they're looking into remote viewing again. They're looking into psychics again, using it or utilizing those kind of techniques for the future. Man, we have a lot of stuff going on in this world, and we really have to discern and look at it in a mature manner. Don't focus so much on a belief or what someone's telling you. And that's just what I constantly observe, is so many people telling you stuff. You got the team light concept, and you really have to define it, because there's a lot of good people, right? There is a lot of good people out there, that they label themselves team light. Could I be team light too? Probably, because I'm lighting up the world with everybody, trying to light the spirit within you, trying to guide you and aid you in discovering the I am, or in learning how to self-heal yourself and become the best version of you. That's the whole goal. That's my goal, to discover the best version of you, but you have to go through a complex system inside self to even discover the best version of you. But yeah, with Team Light though, it's a global phenomenon. It's not just one person made it, two persons made it. It generated from the New Age aspect. It even generated even before that from like the Freemasons, Illuminati, so on and so forth. The whole Team Light thing. But the problem with it is it falls into the category of what I was talking about in Revelations. Man, I shouldn't have looked that scripture up. I don't know if I can find it real quick or not. But it falls into the same category that, the messenger told, man, it's either Peter or Paul, told him, do not worship me. I'm just a messenger. Do not worship me. And what are we seeing now with these Team Light people or New Age people? You really have to categorize them as that. They focus so much on these beings, these ET beings, that they're here to help humanity and so on and so forth, and they treat them like gods. They treat them like gods, like, oh wow, these beings are communicating with me, they're helping us, and they're treating them like gods. Well, the problem with that is people are putting so much trust and faith in words alone. Well, they're from the higher dimensions and things of that nature. Nothing can pierce from a dimensional standpoint. Well, you really have to distinguish on how that works. And unless if you're going through deep meditation, you're not going to get on how the layers work, and you're not going to really even distinguish or discern the spirit or the energy. There's different waves, different energy frequencies. How can we prove the different wave and frequencies that we're receiving is of a higher vibration or of a lower vibration? We don't know. And you got to realize that, any being that is communicating with you is a form of intelligence. And it also has the form of manipulation, which we're manipulated daily. We're manipulated daily. I mean, you can look at manipulation from a positive standpoint, a negative standpoint, a balanced standpoint. Whatever it may be, it's a form of manipulation. It's part of the programs. There's many different forms of manipulation. So it's manipulation isn't bad. It's if you allow it to be bad. But you have to really realize, that we're being manipulated all the time. It really kind of distinguishes and defines who we become as each day passes. Who we become as each day passes. It's a form of manipulation. So when we're talking to all these beings, right, we really have to distinguish the words that are being said. And it's always a repeated thing too, whether it's the Galactic Federation of Light or the Pleiades or Arcturians, whatever it is, it's always the same thing. Well, this planet is moving into a higher frequency. And we're setting the stages for this planet to change and evolve. It's always the same thing. But the problem is you're the change. You are the change. We're not waiting for, well, there is something that has to occur, but we're not waiting for the change that we desire, because we are that change. I mean, there's so many people waking up every day, having beautiful testimonies just like mine. When I was a little kid, it was something I needed to tell myself. I'm pretty sure I was on an exercise bike downstairs in my bedroom, and there was a mirror in my bedroom, and I looked at that mirror and I told myself, I had been maybe 7 years old, and I told myself, I am going to help change the world. I am going to help change the world, and that was it. And it was such a memorable moment that I always remembered it. There was something that the child self, and it was powerful too because it was the child in me. It was like, and it gives me goosebumps talking about it. It was like the echo of the child was for the future me, to remember the child aspect of me. There was just so much that was going on, from a spiritual standpoint when I was growing up. So many things. I was fascinated with the end times, with revelations, uh, at that young age. Plus my shadow being dreams and just all of this stuff I experienced. But that was so powerful that I would help change the world. And now I'm here talking with you guys, expressing, that we have to really take this stuff seriously, discern the spirits or the voices that we communicate, but we need to find the source. We need to find the source in all of it. We need to find some kind of source. And that's the problem, is this new age stuff does not give you a source. Well, you just need to go pray, meditate, boom, done. You just need to go pray, meditate, boom, done. You need to go take psychedelics, or go into a how was it, like a shaman or a native sweat lodge, right? And discover stuff there, which you will. You'll have messengers and guides that will show you. But what does that go to? What is that go to? That 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 main spirit that will speak out from all of the smaller voices, and we have to distinguish that. We have to distinguish that. It's so very important, because that's why that passage in Revelations is so powerful, is because it's letting you realize, don't worship the messengers. They're just messengers. I'm just a messenger. I don't want you guys to be out of worshiping me. I don't want you guys to take the words that I'm saying, like a worshiping tool. No, this is for research. Research in your daily lives to discover the best version of you, to discern the spirits. So many of us are becoming more and more empathic daily. I mean, it's crazy. It's rough. It is rough. Just downloading all of the negativity and depression and anxiety and all of the stuff you download constantly. And it's rough, man. And you got to learn on how to let it go, on how to let it go. And praying, meditation, that's key there. But you got to have a foundation. What is that foundation? um for me, it's that Christ. It's the Mashiach within us. That Messiah, Mashiach within us. The I am within us. It's our own personal psychiatrist within inside self. You have to go within self, conquer your shadows, conquer your traumas. Scars will remain, but that's where you have to learn to accept those scars for what they are, and forgive those scars. Um, Forgive those who gave you those scars, right? You don't have to forgive them physically, but just that forgiveness is going to help cleanse you. And that's, what I was talking about with fire. Fire is purification, purifying souls, cleansing of the souls. Again, with that dream I had, I was constantly being attacked by this shadow creature, this beast constantly, and it would devour me. I tried to run up the stairs, couldn't, got paralyzed, and this beast, this creature would devour me. And then that angel came through the doorway and just purified and cleansed down with fire, right? A sword of fire, and just cleansed it all the way through, all the way down the stairs, wrapped in through my bedroom, all the way into my parents' bedroom, because that's where the beast was in my parents' bedroom. And it purified and cleansed the whole area. And then after that, I was able to go upstairs, and I stayed upstairs. But the purification process happened. We got to have the purification process within our body, cleansing of the body, the mind, the heart, and the soul. And the only way you can do that is to have a foundation. I was, that was my foundation since I was little. I didn't even know what Christ or Mashiach, what that Christ energy was, but I knew it was there. It was always a guiding point. And then when I was little, I gave my life to Christ. And again, I didn't really understand. I don't even remember giving my life to Christ, but my mom said I did. I guess I came up to her and said, hey, I want to give my life to Christ. And that was it. So, and that was the start of my journey. But Christ has always been my foundation, but not from a religious standpoint, but because that energy was always in there. It was always in there. It really defined and distinguished through my path. It was always just that one. And I really didn't discover all the other beings or messengers until 2010, when I really had to learn how to discern spirits and learn, that we were never alone to begin with. We had guides, we have guardians, and all that stuff that surround us daily. And this is the spirit talking right here. There's other stuff I need to talk about in here. But got to find a foundation. So important. A single source. And no one tells you this. And it's so hard to distinguish it, because you go to religion, you go to churches, they tell you, well, you need to give your life to Christ. Boom, done. Okay. Well, the problem with it is people don't know what they're giving their lives to, or how to distinguish it. People do use it daily. Your intuition, right? And that's just your walk with Christ, your physical walk with Christ. But there's also a spiritual walk with Christ that many don't look into. A lot of people walk with Christ in the physical realm. They strive to be like Christ in the physical realm. But there's a spiritual walk that a lot of times is hidden or misinterpreted, which again would be in the dream state. So many people have, and this is where the rapture thing comes in. There's so many things I want to talk about. But, so many people are like, yeah, Christ, they came into my dreams. He opened his arms up and he's like, yes, I'm coming. I will be here soon. It's always, I am. He never says he's Jesus Christ. He never says he's Yahshua. He never says he's the Messiah. He always says, I am coming soon. I am. And even in the Bible it says, I am that I am. Right? I am that I am. It's within you. That spiritual spark within you. That spiritual walk with Christ the Mashiach is within you. That's what's opening up. That's what's opening up in a lot of people right now. That's why we're waking up. That Christ energy is waking up inside of us. But we don't know we don't know how to what is that word? Become aware of what it is. It's rough, man. It really is, because there's just so many layers to this. So many people say it's simple. Things are simple. Keep things simple. But it's not simple based on my experiences. It's not, because there's so much discerning and figuring things out, on self-knowledge, self-awareness, the higher self aspect, right? And this was part of what I was watching yesterday, is talking about the higher selves and distinguishing them, confusing the audience, confusing the audience. Well, my one-dimensional person is Pleiadians, the other dimensional person is Orion, etc., etc., etc. You know, it could be past lives, present lives, future lives. It's hard to say, but it's confusing the audience because they're aspects of self. Well, yes, but it overshadows that single energy source that's trying to be brought to the light. That's trying to be brought to the light. You know, so many people are struggling with trying to distinguish that. The New Age thing is huge. It's huge. That's why I said the Team Light thing, New Age thing is huge. That's what the younger audience is looking into. That's what um it's hard to explain. But basically, and how I've viewed and observed things is that the teachings of our ancestors, right? And I've talked about the ancestors before, the ancient ancestors, right? Before the Vatican and the Roman and Christian Crusades and the Dark Ages, they burned all of our books or they put them all in the vault, right? The Vatican has a huge library, a vault of all of this information, right? There are no fools, man. Why would you want to burn books of how this world is run? It would make no sense. So, I mean, all the books are out there, but I kind of forgot where I was going with this. Oh, man. But yeah, that single source. So, yeah, so with the New Age concept, that's what people are listening to. That's what people are in tune with, is being drawn to these ET beings, right? You know, and that's what the messengers taught me for over a year and a half, 2 years, nonstop. Get off work, pray, meditate, 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 constantly, 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 discerning the spirits, learning what these higher self aspects were, figuring it out, you know, listening to what the voices had to say, distinguishing it, figuring it out, just like a puzzle. I didn't take anything literally. I mean, all honestly, you know, when I was hearing what these voices were telling me, you know, was the same thing that other people were saying. Well, there's, you know, the world is transforming. I was showed the same things, you know, and they're true. They're true because, you know, I see it myself, you know, on how Earth is dividing itself. You know, there's uh, a negative lower Earth aspect that's going this way. There's a positive false light Earth that's going that way. But there is that true Earth that is in the middle that's being birthed. So you got three Earths. You know, you got the lower Earth that way. And like I said, then you got the positive false light Earth, which is a lot of people. This is where the New Age people are going into this positive false light Earth. And then you got the balanced Earth, the real Earth, and that's the one you want to be on. That's the one you want to be on. And no more recording now. Facebook don't work. I don't know what's going on. So, oh well, it's all good. But yeah, so it's crazy, man. It's really uncanny um on how so many people are falling into the false light concept. Same way with, and that's what I was talking about with the rapture. So many people are focusing on wanting to leave the earth, wanting to leave the earth. Well, the Mashiach is going to show up. The Messiah is going to show up. You know, read the life and times of Christ in the Bible again. The life and death of Christ. The Messiah was on earth already, and humanity hated him. Humanity hated him. He was a rebel. He was a he was a thug, right? He was a thorn in all of the church's assembly's side because all the humans were following human doctrines and not the ways of the Creator, the ways of the Most High, right? The ways of the Spirit, the ways of the Spirit was lost because of human doctrines, human perception, human viewpoints. And it's so hard to talk to people about that because, they're like, well, you're a human, Adam, aren't you? Um, I'm like, well, this is a human vessel, a human avatar, but I talk from the Spirit. I talk from the Spirit. And it totally, you have to really distinguish and redefine self. Don't limit yourself. Redefine self. This stuff comes from somewhere, and when we talk through the Spirit, it's a whole different aspect, a whole different element. Um, that just, man, it leaves me speechless because I don't really know on how to even go through with trying to explain this stuff. I could try to explain it all day long, but just discerning spirits. I mean, that's really what you have to do. Is don't worship all the voices that surround you all the time that really want to throw you off track. There's guides, there's guardians. You have to distinguish that. You have to discover that. Praying, meditation key to distinguish the spirits. Distinguish the spirits. And these spirits will choose a form. I mean, maybe they want to look like a Palladian. Doesn't mean they are a Palladian, but maybe they'll look like a Palladian just so then you'll listen. Just so then you'll listen. And you can be persuaded or manipulated. You hear people say, well, God told me to go do this. People will go rob banks and do horrible things and say, well, God told me to do this, or the Spirit told me to do this, or the angels told me to do this, or ETs told me to do this, right? So many things that distinguish and manipulate, right? The power of manipulation. Again, that's how I open this video up, is that people get manipulated very, very easily. And that's the problem. That's the problem. You really have to define all these elements. So many people right now are waking up, but they're having to fight the most hardest battle they'll ever fight, and that's themselves. They have to fight themselves. They have to go through all this trauma, go through all of this breaking down moments, breaking down moments within your life of trying to emerge victorious and become one with the Christ or the Messiah energy. It's one energy source. It is an energy source within us. And that's the only way I can really distinguish it is the Messiah energy. I've never heard of any other energy. No matter how many religions you practice or whatever it may be, Hey, how's it going, Jay? No matter what kind of religion that you practice, there's only one that talks about, Mashiach, the Mashiach energy, the Christ energy. It's the most purest one, but it's overlooked. Like I said, New Age totally bypasses the whole concept. Do they talk about Christ? They do. They just act like he's just one big character. But it's us. That's the defining element in us. That's the soul or the spirit. That's part of a soul matrix. There's soul matrices. I really encourage people to look into soul matrices. Are you going to get the full story? No, you're not. You're not. But at least you'll know the concept of what a soul matrix is. It's a whole bunch of souls in this one matrix. Like I said, I could be one person on Earth, but attached to 1,000 other souls. 1,000 other souls. So we're learning, communicating, sending different energy frequencies out onto the world to feed the soul matrix. And then when our time here is done, We go back into the soul matrix, and we go back into the life stream, or spiritual stream of life. It, it's oh, it just gets so deep, you know, and you know, and that the only way you can discover this kind of stuff is through meditation, but knowing what to look for, knowing what to distinguish, knowing what to ask for, knowing what to ask for. You know, meditation is a step-by-step process, and you have to know what to ask for, what to ask for. It's so very important to use your voice. You know, that's one of my key things. You know, I say, you know, your voice matters. Your voice matters. You know, what did God say at the beginning? God is the Word, and the Word was with God, right? Or Elohim. It was Elohim. But it's the power of words. It wasn't the Bible that was being discussed. The power of words, the power of vibrations, frequencies, will and intent, right? The sword that came out of the mouth. You know, it is that power, the power of that. That's magic. That's witchcraft coming out of our mouths daily. You know, again, this English language is a reverse language, a spell language. So, you know, we're cursing each other as we talk. But I mean, it will define itself. It will define itself. I don't know how it does, but it does. But it's just so deep. You really have to discipline yourself, you know, and that's why it's so frustrating, because to get that kind of discipline, you have to become a monk. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend a whole lifetime being a monk, learning the ways of the universe, and then leave this earth with there was so much other stuff, you know, I could have accomplished as well. You know, I'm here where I am, you know, for a reason. You know, my whole life path has been for a reason. You know, I've always been a deep thinker, and I never take someone's word literally. You know, I do research and look at where this research is coming from, where this research is coming from. And so many people are being deceived daily because of this. You know, there's no discerning anything. You know, people don't know what they're looking for. People are misinterpreting their dreams constantly, constantly. Um, there's so many different elements. Um, and like I said, you know, people, the New Age people keep pushing the Bible away. Well, that's old dogma. That's old dogma. Read between the words. That's the book of life right there. The book of life right there. It's uncanny just how poetic and beautiful the Bible is. Is it mistranslated? Heck yeah. It's really badly translated. You know, it got translated into a human doctrine. And that's where you really just have to do your own research, learn more about the Hebrew elements, as well as just reading between the lines. There's a lot of things that are missing from the Bible that was taken from us. I mean, literally taken from us. You know, I bet you, you know, Christ probably had a whole book on deep meditation, and it was taken away from us, you know, and it was considered forbidden. So, I don't know. It's really have to really discover things for ourselves. Hey, how's it going, Deborah? Let's see. The hardest work I've encountered through meditation. Uh, Sometimes it makes you feel like you're giving up, and yeah, sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. I mean, it can get real. It can get real hard, you know, through meditation, because there's so many elements. I mean, you can picture yourself going through clouds, or I guess you could say a blizzard, right? There's a bad blizzard outside, a really extreme blizzard outside, and you know, say you're at a store, right? And you want to go home, right? Your home is far away, but you know, it's not going to do you no good to stay at the store, and you have to go. So you have to make your way to the house. You have to make your way to the house. So you're going to have to go through that blizzard. And you were prepared for it. You were prepared because you heard there was a blizzard. And that's what you have to go through with deep meditation, is you're going to have to go through thick blizzard or thick fog, and you're going to encounter into many different obstacles. I don't know how else to explain this, but you're going to go through many different layers inside self to discover self. And then once you discover self, then you learn about a higher self, which is already built into you. It's not outside self. It's not a higher dimensional self. It's all intertwined and interconnected within you. Intertwined and interconnected within you. Now, I will not rule this out though. Now, I could be, like I said, I may be in this body, but I could also be in a ship way high in the sky somewhere, higher into the universe. I could be on a ship on there as well. So you cannot rule out the possibilities that we have. Our souls are separated into different bodies. And I will never rule that out because I've had too many experiences with that. And I think that's where a lot of people really don't know how to distinguish or redefine those. They think they're higher selves, but they're really just the same aspect of what you are now. I mean, you could do a human, maybe a lower aspect, and then you could be a Lyran cat being. Like I said, I've had past lives as a Lyran cat being. That's another life. That's another character. Is it a higher self of you? No. Is it another you? Yes. So we really have to really define these elements of what a higher self is, and define the elements of multiple lives as well. But we focus on this life. I mean, it's good to know about the other lives that are simultaneously happening at the moment. But higher self aspects is already built within you. The perfect or best version of you is already in you. You just have to discover it. But you have to go through all the garbage within you. You have to destroy the ego within you to discover the true you. It gets so deep, man. It gets so deep. We're already 47 minutes in. Man, that's the power of the spirit. That's really what I kind of wanted to really distinguish the differences between discerning spirits, and the angels and everything. It's like I said. What are you supposed to believe? You're hearing the Rapture. You're hearing about Christ. You're hearing about Team Light. You're hearing about Satan, which is Saturn, and all of this stuff is just confusing everybody. And that's kind of what I want to talk about is the Space Force thing. And it's so silly, it really is. But again, like I talked about in the previous video, is there was already a Space Force anyways. It was called the Space Race. They've been involved with space for a while now. And I got to make a video on how we can't leave Earth's lower orbit. That's all we can be is in Earth's lower orbit. We can't go any farther than that. It's impossible. They're really trying to figure out how to do it, but they can't. So the second best thing that they're going to do is just have all of these spacecraft in space, right? These spacecraft in space. And they're trying to be prepared for something. Be prepared for something. And I really feel that I think this is where a lot of deceptions will happen, is because we'll have a lot of spacecraft in the sky that we can live on. And granted, I guarantee you, because just like it's already been stated already, because they have little spacecrafts. You can go in a spacecraft, but they cost like, man, what was it, like $70 million or something like that, or $125 million to go up into space. So if there is actual spacecraft the elite will make it a fortune for you to go up there because they don't want you up there. There's a lot of stuff that goes on up there. I had an encounter with UFOs the day before, not last night, but the night before. Some pretty bizarre stuff, and my daughter was able to see this last UFO. It was weird. It was weird. And it would have been nice if I would have videotaped it, but it was such a bizarre craft because of how it moved. Because it literally was just trying to think. We'll just use this here. But it moved slow, so it kind of threw me off. But I see these a lot though, in quite a bit. But it was moving slow, and it didn't have any kind of it wasn't following the flight path of like an airplane, and how an airplane just kind of moves through the air. It was free spirited. It was just kind of just floating on its own. It wasn't a drone because of how it distinguished itself. It was the only best way I can say it is that it flashed a big white light to us. A big white light, not just like a flashlight, but it was a very distinguishing light that I've never experienced before. And it threw my daughter off too, because she was like, "What is that?" Because she never seen anything like that either. But it would pulsate real. It would just do this flash, and then it would pulsate back down, and it would look like a little star. And it was continuing. It was just minding its own business, doing it again, and then it would do it again just a little while later. Big old white flash of light, and then it would dim down back into a little star looking thing again. The most bizarre thing I've ever. I mean, I would say that was definitely the best UFO encounter I've ever hit. When I call it UFO, because I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. I know it wasn't a drone. I know it wasn't a airplane. I don't know what it was, but it caught my daughter in awe, and yeah, it really stuck out to her. I was like, oh, look, this is your very first UFO, and it stuck out to her. She realized, there was something different out there, and my son missed out on it because I was really rushing. I was like, come out here and check this out, and yeah, it was definitely a cool encounter. Definitely a cool encounter with my daughter. She'll definitely remember that in the future. So yeah. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on. I really feel that with all of this spacecraft that will be in the sky, the false spacecraft, I think it's going to be really deceiving to the people. Deceiving to the people. And with all the technology that we got, like say with holodecks and all that stuff become more and more a realistic thing. Oh man, I don't know how to say your name. Arturo? Arturo says, thank you for all you share and do. Thanks, man. I know I butchered your name, but yeah, thank you, man. But yeah, we have the technology for holodecks and suites. So, you know, if you ever went up into these false spacecraft and you went to sleep, well, they could, for deception reasons, they could get you while you're sleeping, put you in a holodeck, and then you would be in a false reality. You would think you're still in the real world, but you're actually stuck in your own little holodeck, and you wouldn't be able to really distinguish or redefine. I still think that myself. I still think that myself. At times it does really feel like I am in a holodeck. And this goes back to 2012. Something happened in 2012. I mean, the stuff I encountered towards the end, it was different. My life's never been the same since 2012. 2010 was my starting point of waking up, learning about deep meditation and all that stuff. But the end of 2012, something was different. 2013 came in, and the world is not the same as it was. The stars in the sky are not the same as they they used to be. Nothing is the same as it used to be. I was even watching, the meteor shower, that's been happening in the past 2 nights. Definitely a letdown because there wasn't very many that I could see with the meteor shower. But I don't, the meteor showers aren't like I remember either. They're not like what I remember either. I used to remember the meteor showers. I remember watching it with my mom one time, and the meteor showers, they, it did look like actual rocks, were falling to the sky because that's what they look like. But now, recently, the meteors that we see now, they shoot. They they go really fast, like through the sky, and they just kind of come out of nowhere, lower Earth orbit, real low. Last week I saw like this fireball, and it just kind of appeared out of nowhere, not from up here, but from the side. It just kind of came up out of nowhere, shot out this way, and then disappeared. And it was just kind of like it was kind of like a holographic projection, like it was not there, and then it break through some kind of dimensional wall where I could see it, and then it disappeared again. And that's what I saw with these supposed meteors, or they kind of look like shooting stars, but they just kind of just zoom through. I mean, they were like faster than the speed of light, and they just kind of appeared in lower Earth's orbit, real low. I mean, literally low, and they just kind of appeared, and then just kind of just disappeared. There was no red fireball or nothing. It was just these white flashes of light that just kind of streaked through. I don't know. There's just so many things, man. It's uncanny. There's a lot of stuff that's being more and more known. The things aren't what they seem to be. But yeah, I definitely think that we'll end up having uh, the false agenda of all these spacecrafts being a huge thing. And that's what I was getting across with the Rapture, is that people are going to want to go onto these ships because of all the crazy stuff that might happen down here. I don't know what's going to happen down here. I do feel that Antarctica is going to end up being the source of all the answers we're looking for. Antarctica is melting daily. And there's a lot of things that are being uncovered in Antarctica. I mean, you got those pyramids over there. You got these caverns and caves that are getting more and more publicized. They were trying to keep it secret, but it's become more and more publicized as well. In Antarctica, people are saying it used to be Atlantis. It could even have been the Garden of Eden. It could have been the whole birthing point of humanity, because we were born. That's what I was talking about briefly in my last video, is how it said that we were born from the dust of the earth. Well, modernize that, and it's really our genetics. It was just like what we have now. They were messing with genetics, blending stuff together, making beings, humanity, animals, whatever it may be, in tubes, and then letting them walk around to the earth, which would make sense. I mean, you can make a full man or woman from a tube, and then you just open up the doorway. There you go. You got a full adult, never born out of a mother's womb, just created from genetics. And and that's kind of like the birth of all the animal creatures. They were birthed through genetics. They let them go and walk out onto the earth. So it's it just leaves me speechless, because there's just so much more that I really feel that's going to get more and more. It's going to feel like a movie. It's going to feel like a movie. I mean, there's so many things, so many more UFOs showing up all the time, learning more and more on how we have cloaked ships in the sky. It's crazy. It really is. Eventually we're going to see ships in the sky. And I think that's really kind of what the elite is preparing humanity for. And I think that they're scared too, because these beings have been here the whole time. They never left. I mean, you got the Watchers, Even in Marvel Comics, they have these characters called the Watchers that watch over humanity. Um, it's real, man. It's real. You got testimonies of these spacecraft, of just floating in the sky, and they have these little windows with these beings looking out, just observing Earth, observing Earth, see what humanity is capable of, or seeing if they can uh, get out of the ego concept, right? Because people live by the way of the world, and people live by ego. That was what sin was called, but now it's ego, personas, so on and so forth. So yeah, so I'm just starting to ramble now, but yeah. So at the end of the day, we really have to discern spirits. Discern spirits. Don't bow down to the messengers that are giving you prophetic dreams or visions or even current event stuff. Don't bow down to them. Listen to them, and discern them. And there is one main source uh, through all this, which is that Mashiach, that Christ energy. It's not a religion. It's not some kind of belief. It's an actual thing that's within you. And I can only speak it from experience and learning how to discern things. It's one source within you. It's one source. It's not all of these other voices. It's just one source. And you can only discover that through praying and meditation. You ain't doing your praying or meditation, you ain't never going to really discover what that Mashiach energy is. I mean, you'll be able to walk with Christ, like I said, in the physical realm. But you need to have a spiritual walk with Christ to really grasp the full thing. And that's kind of what I want to talk about too. I'll just have to talk about another video. Was energy exchange as well. Energy currency, and that's something that's not really talked about either. So I'll end up confusing you if I talk about it now. But yeah, there is an energy currency, and I'll try to talk about that in another video. I'm really trying to figure out how to put that together. But yeah, so at the end of the day, we just have to discern a lot of stuff. Be mature in what you're looking for. Don't take people's words for it. Don't take my word for it. Research, and do more research. Put the pieces of the puzzle together. Listen and learn from each other. We're learning from each other. People in the chat room, we learn from each other. I learn from you guys, and then you guys let me know if you're learning from me. And we learn from each other. That's the whole part of this aspect. We want to know the whole truth. We don't want half truths. We don't want somebody telling us, oh, well, our Palladian has told us that this is what's going on. This Galactic Federation of Light, this is what's going on. What's the Spirit saying? What is that one Spirit saying? What is that Christ energy saying? What is that Christ energy saying? Hey, how's it going, Jeffrey? Let's say. Jeffrey says, hey, Adam, isn't the role of a person's incarnation to see if you can increase the amount of Christ energy you got in the beginning over your life? Let's see if I can define that. Let's see. So I think what Jeffrey's saying here, he has a different perception on things, just like I do. I think what he's really trying to say is that with me talking about the Christ energy that I have experienced allows it to be more open within you, it's the whole teach concept. You never were taught this stuff, so you come across me, you're like, oh, okay, what is this Mashiach? What is this Christ energy? I thought this was just some religious dogma of, hey, I got to give my life to Christ, which is what I talked about before. It's anchoring that energy. And this is what I always tell people. When I go out into the world, I say hi to everybody. I say, hey, how are you? How are you doing? How is your life? Well, not in that way, but how is your day going? Things like that. And one of the most common things I always get is Someone will shake my hand just out of the blue. Someone will just shake my hand. That's an energy exchange. They have just, I've given my energy to them. That's the Christ energy, because that's what I run off of. I gave it to them. I say a silent prayer to them, and I send healing to them. So that awakens that Christ energy within them. And then they continue on through. It's a blending process. We're never separated. We're never divided. Now Jeffrey's going to get me on a whole different subject here. But we're all energetically connected. We have all of these cords spread out through us. So we can send out that Christ energy energetically. This is where, like uh like the astral projection, right? I've talked about the astral projection on how you can energetically heal each other. Through meditation, we can do the same thing of healing your energetic body, so on and so forth. Well, you can send out energy as well. Let's see, Jeffrey. So obviously, I'm not talking about what he's talking about. Let's see, Jeffrey says, well, what I believe is that everyone gets a set amount on birth, and they can increase it or reduce it. Thoughts, actions, example, you're following natural law, you get more. So he's talking about something totally different than what I'm talking about. So I'll have to talk to him about that more. But as a whole, yeah, there we go. That makes more sense. Jeffrey's just saying, that we have that Christ energy within us already. And that's what I've said too. It's something that isn't given to you. It's already there. That's where you discern the spirits, because you have all of these spirits talking to you. It could be your ego self. It could be just entertaining angels, right? Entertaining other beings or guides, so on and so forth. But there's that one spirit that is within us constantly, one single spirit that will guide you. That's the Mashiach energy. That's what I've always walked through since I can remember. And it's a single source. It's a single source. We're all born with that single source, and it's just discovering that single source. And when you discover that single source, it transforms you. Like I said, you can walk with Christ in the physical reality, and I know I've been saying this throughout the video, but you have to have a spiritual walk with Christ, a whole different concept, and that's why I got to start this school up. I should be able to start this school up as soon as next week. I just got to get Zoom going, and I will let you guys know by Saturday. I'll get things going. I'll set up a class. I'm planning to have maybe 11 or 12 people, I think will be okay. So it's pretty new. I mean, I don't know who all will show up, but at least 12 people can be in this class. And it's going to be free for now, so definitely take advantage. But it's going to allow you to discover that Christ energy within you, looking at different aspects, different ways on how to view it. Because a lot of times you don't know what you're looking for. I didn't know what I was looking for. My guides were good to me. I had this built-in time where boom, it turned on. I didn't know what it was, but I was guided by spirit. I was guided by the spirit within. It was, that spirit, that Mashiach energy was like, hey, it's time. It's time. It's your time. So, I've been on a very interesting journey. I've been on this journey with Jeffrey the whole time as well. We've learned from each other. We disagreed on a lot of things as well, but we've learned. At least I've learned from him. I've learned from him. And it's just, we learn from each other. We learn from each other. We grow spiritually. We grow physically. It's just been a crazy wild ride. But yeah, so I should be able to get that school started here by next week, hopefully, and we'll go from there. So yeah, if you're definitely interested, again, you get on Facebook, and you can find me on there, as well as YouTube. You can just shoot me or even just leave a message down here. Leave a message, say, hey, I'm interested. What's your email address? And I'll give it to you. So yeah, so because that's what it'll go through. I'll send you the link in the email address, and then you can go into that Zoom talk. So yeah, so like I said, I'll get it all set up. I start vacation after I get off work on Friday, so I can get things going. So I've been really planning this, really trying to strategize on how I want to do this. So yeah, so it should be exciting. So yeah, so I gotta get out of here. I'm just gonna be I'm gonna be talking forever. Let's see. Jeffrey says, I would suggest those people you meet in supermarkets have also increased their energy to a point that you can now feel the resonance in your own energy field. It could be. It could be. Um, and we can talk about these other elements as well. See, and Jeffrey says, sounds like a nice pursuit. Of course. Best of luck in that. Oh yeah. But yeah, and that leads into other elements as well, is that the people you meet in, like what Jeffrey said, in the supermarket and stuff, you don't know if they're real people or not. I mean, there's a lot of this reality is it's so weird, especially when you're empathic, and sometimes you'll feel that person, if they have depression or anxiety or whatever, you'll feel that. But other times you'll come across people, and I've talked about with this with some other people that feel the same way. You'll come across people and you don't feel anything at all. Nothing. No energy, no source, no spirit. I mean, and when you get more and more in tune, sometimes you can see, like, their shadow self or something attached to them. Nothing's there. It's just a blank. It's just a blank. So it leads me to believe, that some of these people just don't exist. So therefore it could be a holographic world. But I don't know. I don't know. It's strange. It's strange. There's a lot of stuff we don't know about this reality. A lot of stuff. This can include cloning. I talked about skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are big. I really need to talk about that more, because skinwalkers walk among us a lot. People can say, well, they're reptilian shapeshifters, whatever. Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers, the most bizarre thing ever. Look into skinwalkers. They have, they can be whatever they want. I mean, if they want to be a reptilian, they would form into that. I've been watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and they have a character named Odo, known as a changeling. They can change themselves into whatever they want. An object, a bird, an animal of any kind, even a human. And that's why the natives always did this. So then they could see if they could pull their fingers apart, because they couldn't pull their fingers apart. It'd be kind of like this, or their fingers would be together, so they would know they were a skinwalker. So it's bizarre stuff. It gets bizarre stuff. Let's see. Yeah, Deborah. Yeah, when I get things separated, yeah, I'll definitely send you the link. So yeah, if you're friends with me on Facebook, I can send a link through there too. So yeah, definitely. See, Jeffrey says, do you think that these non-people are like portals and many can come through them? I I I still have, I've talked about this a lot. Timelines are still very real, and we bounce back and forth through timelines. I mean, just like when you'll think about somebody, and then all of a sudden, days later, even a week later, boom, then they're there, and they're like there for like a couple days, and you thought about them previously. So does that mean that the matrix or one of the timelines, you merge with that timeline, so then you're able to be in that time period? So then you can send healing energies or vibrations or whatever it may be in that timeline. That's where the healing of timelines comes in. Timelines fall off, new timelines grow. All of this stuff, man. It's a multi-layered world. It's not just a single layered world. And the more and more you just pay attention to your surroundings, you realize that there's things that change constantly. People's moods will change. Sometimes people will be out of character. I've noticed that a lot. People will be out of character, where they'll act not themselves. And then days later, you'll see them again, and they'll act like what you remember. They'll act like what you remember. And then weeks go by, and then they'll act like totally different. So it could be It could be just those different timelines. Um, People act differently, right? People act differently. So it's a multi-layered world. It's a bizarre world. It really is. I mean, I've been a deep thinker, always have. It's what helps me discern a lot of things and question a lot of things. I never take things literally. I don't believe in anything. I discover. I discover. That's the key word, discovery. Because discovery is endless. As you discover more truths, you're like, oh, that's it. And then you're like, oh, there's so much more to learn. And then it continues on. You're never done learning. You're never done learning. You never get it. I'm still learning daily, still trying to put these pieces of the puzzle together, trying to just put it all together. And it's huge. It's huge. But at the end of the day, the reality eventually is in this lifetime, um, I want to have a world that is ready. I want my kids to be in a world of of what I'm showing you guys, a sense of unity, a sense of bringing that Christ energy back and bringing it back. And that's what we've been talking about. I've been watching Truth Seeker, real good friends with him. And, that's what we're trying to bring back, from New Age and, sorcerers and witchcraft and all that stuff has stolen what that Christ energy is. And they have stolen all this stuff, right? Because, everything is magic. We do magic daily. We do witchcraft daily. Define what witchcraft is. Witchcraft is will and intent. Witchcraft is positive and negative. Witchcraft is white magic and black magic. It is used daily. You can really get really extreme with it, or you just use it daily. And sorcerers are a totally different ball game, and I'll talk about those later. But man, the world is just so deep, man, and I can just keep talking on and on and on about this stuff. Let's see. Jeffrey says, today for me at the hardware store was like the Matrix. I entered a zone today where it was frantic. Of course, the shooting here in Canada has people wrapped up. Oh yeah, yeah, I read about that. Yeah, I just got done reading that this guy, I guess he went to jail, and then he got on bail, right? On bail, out of bail, um, out of jail, and he goes and he gets his plane. How he got that plane, that's really fishy to me. And then he flies this plane right into his house where his wife was in. So I don't know if she died or not, but you know, that story is just bizarre to me. Like, I mean, what would cause a person to, let alone, you have to know how to fly a plane. So does that mean that this person knew how to fly a plane? I mean, if he flew a plane, that means he knew on how to fly one. So it's bizarre. It's just more distractions, more distractions. So many distractions, so many distractions. Now, I'm not saying, the shootings aren't real. They're very real. I really do feel that it involves secret agents. Secret agents are everywhere. I mean, I live by that DTA. Do not trust anybody. I learned that from Stone Cold Steve Austin. It stuck out with me. And it stinks to live that kind of way, but you have to. You have to discern people. You have to discern people. Listen to them. Um, if you feel they need your help, then they will be. Um, but you have to discern people. DTA, do not trust anybody because you never know. You never know. Same with Donald Trump, and that's what I was going to talk about too. Same with the Republic. You got the Democrats and you got the Republicans, right? Well, define that. Define that. Discover the history, the root of the Republican and the Democrats, and merge the words together. And you get a demonic republic, or the republic. What is a republic? It is a family. It is a family. It is it's a mafia. It's a mafia. And people refuse to look at that. It is a republic. It is a dominating republic over the business of the United States, but of the world. It's the United Nations covers the whole world, and that's why I said with archons, the way to run an empire, right? This is how the Romans did it. You you control the banks, you control the military, create the biggest military ever. You're unstoppable, and then you control the churches. You run those three things, you dominate the whole world, and that's it. And that's what they have right now. That's what they have. And it gets so deep, man. It gets so deep, man. It's crazy. Let's see. Taro, like I said, I'm butchering your name, man, says, what do you think of crystals? I'll talk about that in just a second here. And then Jeffrey says, did you know, Adam, that the user GC suggested that the shooting in Canada was connected? Oh, okay. And the plane is bizarre as a note. Trump is my man. Observe as a note the clothing. They are red and black, probably a person marked to be sacrificed. Could be, definitely. And that's where I say Trump is part of the big republic. You look out through history on his personal relationship with all the past presidents. They're linked, man. They're linked. He's full of money. His father had tons of money, and you do research on the father. They're all related. It's all one big republic. The only president. There's a couple presidents, but the one that really stuck out for me was John F. Kennedy. There was something there. Something there. I don't know if he just wanted out, and it could have been. He may just was just fed up, because there was a big thing with him and Marilyn Monroe. That it was a bizarre story. It was a bizarre story. Definitely look it up. But I really feel John F. Kennedy really had something going. I think he was done. Martin Luther King was, around that time period too. I think he was just done. He wanted out. He wanted out. And, that goes into the whole Aleister Crowley thing. Ugh, man, I hate looking up that guy. But it gets deep, man. It does. It does. So I don't fall for this Trump. I feel it's a false trumpet of leading the people, or at least, I mean, what better way to try to persuade the people? Try to persuade the United States people, right? Because it's a government, it's a business, separate from America. But what better way to do that than to speak like the people? Speak like the people. That's what he did. He spoke like how the people spoke. And he changes things. He changes things. He words things differently. You just got to keep an eye on it. Just keep an eye on it. People will deceive you just like that. So, as far as the presidency goes, until I really see somebody really live by the heart and by the spirit, it's just a person, man. It's just a person. And with so many layers involved, the presidency itself, it's just a puppet, man. It's just a puppet. And that's just, I mean, it's just something you have to do research on. Do research, man. I mean, that's all I can say is just do research. Research on the history of a person, right? People can change their lives. They can. They definitely can. But I just look at from a bloodline perception on how all of these families all are friends with each other since early childhood or whatnot. It's very fishy, man. It's very fishy. A lot of these presidents have been bankers. It's just all part of the Archon thing. So it's deep, man. And that's where you have to, again, discern the spirits. Discern the spirits. Listen to what's the most important. Are you going to listen to all these beings that surround you? Or are you going to listen to the one true spirit? And you have to distinguish the spirits. And that's what I had to learn. And it's a complicated process. Nothing simple, man. Nothing simple. So let me talk about crystals real quick, then I gotta get out of here. As far as crystals go, I definitely have my own crystals. I really got some raw crystals back in the day. Was do my deep meditation because I really wanted to learn about crystals too. I wanted to do it all. I wanted to do it all in one full swing. Deep meditation, talked about crystals. I got different kinds of rocks, like the crystal quartz, whatever it may be. Um, I use those very heavily during my meditations, and they worked. And basically, it really was a good tool for me because how I would set it up, I would set it up around me like a circle. And since I knew that crystals were energy currents because they shoot out energy currents, they download energy currents and they shoot out energy currents. So that's what I kind of used was a way of hey, thanks for coming over, Jeffrey. Um, have a good one. But yeah, I use the crystals as a way of creating an energy barrier because I was still learning from my guides on how to create an energy barrier. But I just kind of used that because I was becoming really, really sensitive to the spirits that were surrounding me. It was rough, man. I hate the dark. I hate the dark. I mean, I will honestly say I do not like the dark. Just with the experiences that I had when I was a child, even to this day, I if my wife isn't in the bedroom with me, I'll have the nightlight on. I will have a lamp on because I just don't want to deal with the spirits. I just don't want to deal with them because I'm getting so sensitive. It's really it's rough, man. It's rough. So I really had to really kind of create this barrier for myself. So then I felt protected. So then I wouldn't get distracted for what was in the darkness. For what was in the darkness. So I use them as a tool, and it definitely works. Crystals work, but crystals I feel is a way of will and intent, sending out the energy, download energy. Um, People say to purify the crystals as well. Definitely, I mean, this world has huge energy, huge crystals underneath in certain areas. Like I think Antarctica definitely has a lot of crystals. Mount Shasta is supposed to be a big area full of crystals underneath the ground. Uh, so yeah, crystals is good, man. It's definitely a good tool. I don't use them now as much as I used to. Once in a while I will, but yeah. Let's see. We got a retard says you really need to get some help, bro. Well, you really have to define the elements of what we're talking about, um, distinguishing those elements. So, how's it going, man? But yeah, so you really have to really just really distinguish everything. So yeah, so I gotta run, man. But yeah, so at the end of the day, self-discovery is key. Praying, meditation. If you want to discover more about self, learn how to heal yourself, create the best version of you, the best version of you. You're going to have to heal all those wounds and cleanse and purify yourself. Allow the fire to to grow within you to create that purification process within you, that spiritual healing, that spiritual cleansing. So then you can be more pure and clear-headed and discover the spirit within you. Discover that one spirit, that Mashiach spirit. Um, and it takes practice, and you have to know what you're looking for. You have to know what you're looking for. And it's just creating the best version of you. You want to discover the best version of you. You can be that best version. You can't just say, I've never done drugs and never will. Drugs are bad for you. Drugs are bad for you. But yeah, just discovering the best version of you. And that's what's important. So many people suffer daily because they can't handle their own self. They can't handle what they're going through. They can't get out of their depression. They can't get out of their anxiety. They're allowing their own emotions to control them. And, and it's hard. It's hard for them. It really is. I've been there. I was a super depressed person. I didn't know where else to go. But it was that voice that told me, hey, I've been there the whole time. I've been there the whole time. All you had to do was ask. All you had to do was ask. Ask for healing, ask for cleansing, ask for forgiveness, and have that will and intent to become the best version of you, to live that life you want to live. You have to be willing to want it. You have to be willing to want to grow and mature in your mind, body, and soul. Like I said, I've been around people who are 50, 60 years old who still act like a rebellious teenager who's still doing drugs and going to parties and drinking up like crazy, and it's sad. And then they have their kids, their kids at home that are getting messed up. They don't have no parents to go to, so what happens? They turn into their parents, and then they get into drugs, they get into drinking, and it creates a hard life for them again. Um, and it's rough, man. It's rough, and that's why it's so hard for people to really discover the Christ energy, or discover, the Most High within them, because they lose all faith in reality. They lose all faith in reality because of what their parents chose to do. They chose to be immature. They chose to be irresponsible. And sometimes the kids don't even have parents. Their parents died, so then they have their aunt or uncle, and they can do the same thing. It's rough on kids, man. Kids need love. Kids need support. Kids need positive role models. Uh, so yeah, kids need positive role models, and they will discover them eventually. And sometimes, you can be in a rough. You know, I've had family members who were doing drugs when they were 9 years old, man, and it's rough, man. It really is. So it's definitely living in an interesting world, I really do. But people are waking up daily, learning more about the Christ energy daily. So yeah, I gotta go, man. I'm already at an hour and 32 minutes here. So love yourself, keep shining bright. Thank you all for joining me in the chat room. Hopefully I can get this Facebook thing going. Still not working here, but yeah. So discover the best version of you. Discover the Christ energy within self. Once you do that, your real journey begins. Your real journey begins. So yeah, so I gotta go. So love yourself, keep shining bright. I'll talk to you guys later.